going. Hunter, hello.
Hey Roy, how you doing?
Thank you for joining. And today I'm very excited. You will explain some about left and right.
Yes, that'd be great. No, I'm looking forward to it. It's one of the newest things in power, and we've been doing a lot of work on it, and a lot of new power meters have come out with both left and right data. So it's something that, one is the question of the athlete is, do I need this? Is this important for me? And then once they say, okay, what do I do with this information? How do I use it? And so I think that's one of those things that you have to just say, let's dig into it. So I want to show a little bit of each of those things by explaining a little bit about it and then kind of going into it. So yeah, that'd be great.
Can I start with a hard question at the very beginning? Because, I mean, in my regime of my coaching, I will always work with my athletes on left and right foot exercising because I think it's just necessary,
Yeah.
And that's very proactive. And now I see all those power meters coming out, showing all the data. I had 45, 55, I had 48, 52. And then my first impression is that I say, okay, you are not a robot. You will probably never ride 50-50. So that,
right.
But please correct me if you have other experiences. So,
well, I think that so a couple of things, and it probably, everybody's going to have some discrepancy. Okay, so everybody's going to have a little bit of discrepancy. Everybody's going to be different because that's just the way we are. We're, my right arm is not as strong as my left arm. Okay, that's natural. That's the same with your legs. Now, that's where you have to say, and that's what our data shows us is what is that difference, okay? So can I show my screen?
Yes, please, share the screen.
All right, so let me see.
I sent you some files over so we can discuss it.
Let me share my screen here so you can see it and everybody else can see it.
Yeah.
And let's move this over here. Okay, good. So I'm going to show one. This is a little presentation that kind of talks a little bit about this information, and hopefully this will help explain a little bit about it. So, right now, can you see it okay, Roy?
No, not yet. I was just going to try. Let's see. Try one more time.
Okay, let's see here. Hold on. Maybe, let's see, Skype. Sorry. Share screen. Oh, it's showing. Oh, it's just like it's slow. I think it's up. It looks like I'm sharing it, but maybe I don't know. You can't see it.
No, I can't even see you at the moment.
I'll shoot.
No worries. Do you have is it bad weather outside? Storm?
No, it's hot. It's really hot. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me talk a little bit about it, and then we'll hopefully we can pull it up. If you start to see it, you let me know.
Or if you send it over to me and I share with your screen, that won't help. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So one thing is that we're looking at these new power meters. They look at your left leg by itself, and then your right leg by itself.
Yes.
Okay, so when you think about this, you're saying, okay, it's all of the power of the left leg, so positive power from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, that's the positive force, plus there is some negative force on the backside. From 6 o'clock back to 12, there's some negative force. So, because, you resist a little bit on the way up. Now, the problem with our power meters now is that they're looking at the left leg and saying, okay, let's add all of the positive numbers, let's subtract all the negative numbers. That's your net power.
Yeah.
But that's the problem is that your left leg, the negative force isn't coming from the left leg. Remember, what opposes the left leg? It's the right leg.
Okay, got it.
Right? Because, it's opposite side. Right? So when you push down on the left leg, it's the right leg negative force that is resisting on the upstroke. Same thing on the opposite. When you push down on the right side, it's the left leg that resists that pedal stroke.
Yeah.
So that's where, you have to kind of consider it. And that's the problem with some of the ANT plus balance metrics now and this information that says 52, 48. Well, that means 52, but the left leg 52 and the right leg 48. But when you actually pull the data apart and look at it, it could be completely the opposite.
Okay, got the point.
So that's a problem, right? That's a real problem right now with this information is that you have to look at it and you have to analyze it in the software. The only software that does this is in the WKO4 software that looks at it the way it's supposed to be looked at. And so that's really, a real key part of this is understanding, okay, yeah, the ANT plus maybe what my Garmin says on the head unit, 52-48, my left and right, but in reality, it could be completely the opposite, or maybe it's even worse. Maybe it's 55-45.
Okay.
Now, one thing that I think everybody should understand is that, when you think of it, let's say in that example, 55-45, that's not just a 5% difference from 50 to 55. That's really a 10% difference. Okay? And that's big.
You have like plus 5% and minus 5% is 10% difference, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's big, right? Think about, your FTP is 300 watts, 10% is 30 watts. Yeah, that's a lot of watts. Okay? So that's a lot. So if you're seeing 55-45, and then that weaker leg is really weaker.
How far would you go? How far would you go? Would you do in every training? I mean, of course, you would always try to enforce left and right leg drills, or even work with those special how do you call them, power crank.
Right. Well, I think that one thing that when you see a difference between is more than 3% on either side.
It's so if you're seeing, I see your screen now.
Okay, good. All right. So then that's a big difference. Okay. So that's a big difference. Good. So you see this. So this shows here. This is the right crank and on going up the pedal stroke. So here's 90 degrees. So on the power, right? And then here's the left.
Yeah.
So here's negative force happening when the right crank is producing positive force.
Yeah.
And the same thing on the opposite side. The left crank is now coming around, and then the right crank is resisting that. Okay, so that's really important to understand, how this information works. So let's look at some data. Now, did your data that you sent me, Roy, is that pedaling data?
Yes, it's from my SRM power meter.
Okay, excellent. Well, but you don't have pedaling data in that.
No,
because that's not.
I don't have.
Yeah. So that's only just going to be your normal workout. So let me show you. So here's just your data. Okay. So can you see your data?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So here's this is a ride, and I'm going to get rid of a little bit of cadence data here. Hide.
That's the ride with the 30 seconds at about 600 watt sprint. So I was trying to find out what's going to happen if I'm really stressed high end. What's going to happen with left right? Can you see a difference there?
Right. And that makes sense. And so so your SRM has left and right power data? I don't understand.
Probably not, because it should be No, I don't have, because only Wissenschaft, only the expert crank probably has it. That's why I ask you if you can see left and right from SRM. I don't think you can. I can't with my files. I can't.
No, let me show you. Okay, so here's these other files. So let me show you a little bit of left and right data. So we'll go back to some of my data here and explain a little bit about about what's going on.
How do you measure? Do you measure with Garmin?
Well, so that's a good question. So there are 4 different power meters right now. I think it's 4 that have true left and right data. Okay.
SRM, the high quality crank arm called in German Wissenschaft. They have it, I know.
Yep. And then there's also the Info Crank. Info Crank. Yep. That's Verve Cycling. And actually, you know, one of the owners of the company is in Austria, so he's pretty close.
Info Crank. I never heard about this.
Yeah. Check out Info Crank. Then there is the Power Tap pedals. Okay, so Power Tap has really good pedals. There are the Garmin pedals.
How do you think the Garmin pedals?
They're okay. You have to you have to make sure you get the torque correct on when you get the pedal on the crank, and then just get the pod spaced correctly, then they work fine. Then there's also the Pioneer power meters, the Japanese Pioneer. They have left and right. Now, so that's really kind of what we're looking at. So let's look at this. Can you see my file now?
I see perfect. Yeah.
Good. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to show you. I've got the right leg power hidden. I've got the left leg power hidden, and I'm going to take. I'll take the total power off, and I'm going to make this large so you can see it really easy now. So down here in the bottom, the left is the pink, and the right is kind of the salmon colored. Now this is 3 intervals that I did. Up my local climb, and I did 5 minutes. And the first interval is this one. This is 5 minutes standing.
Yeah.
The second one I did 5 minutes seated.
Okay.
And then the third one I did 5 minutes standing when I wanted to stand, and then I sat down when I wanted to sit down.
Okay.
So that's the difference. So you can see a little bit. You know, okay, when I was standing, my left leg power was a little higher. When I was seated, my right leg power is a little higher there. And then when I did a little bit of each, they kind of balanced each other out. Now, if we come back and we look at just the standing interval, then what I'm going to show you is this is what we call gross power down here, and this is the blue is called gross power released.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the power that you're releasing on the downstroke.
So that's a push. Is it a push?
That's right. That's right. Then you have gross power released on the right. Okay, so now this is the power you release on the right side. Now on here at the bottom, this is gross power absorbed. So this is the left side. And remember, the left side opposes the right side. And then this is the right side. Okay, so when you see this now, you say, oh, it's not just left and right power here. It is releasing the power, and then there is absorbing power.
So this is basically, in figures, that's a 360-degree circle that you did, and you show me now the numbers of what you are doing. Okay, is it correct?
Yes, it's exactly. So right here, so you see the numbers up here. So right here, my left leg is releasing 194 watts. My right leg is only releasing 170 watts. Okay, but my left leg is absorbing 21. All right, and my right leg is absorbing 17. So if you do a little subtraction, right, you have to subtract the left absorption from the right absorption. So 170 minus 21, 149. Right. And then you do the opposite side. We do 194, the left, minus the right, 17, 177. So in this case, it's 177 for the left phase versus 149 for the right phase.
Is this your data, Hunter?
Yes.
How many miles have you been riding all your life? Lots of miles, correct?
Yeah, I started racing when I was 11.
Okay, so one can say that you are a very good rider, correct?
Yeah.
And you still have that difference.
Yeah, and that's standing. All right, now check this out. Here's a curve here. I'll make this even a little bit bigger. So this is the mean maximal curve. So this really shows you how the left leg is releasing power, all right? And then the right leg is not up to the same. Now, the both sides at the bottom are pretty close to each other.
Okay.
All right, now that's standing.
Okay.
Now what happens when I sit down? When I sit down, look, it changes. It flips. Now my right leg is releasing more power than my left leg is. And look how much my left leg is absorbing now.
Okay.
So now my left leg, when I'm sitting down, I'm pushing harder with my right leg, but my left leg is also resisting more. It wouldn't come up as much.
Okay.
All right? So that gets a little complicated. So what I did was I did this for 3 days in a row. No, 4 days in a row.
Same intervals for 4 days in a row.
Exactly. Went to the same hill. I did the same warm-up. I did the exact same intervals. I did everything the same. So this first day I just did it. I just, no bias, nothing. The next day, I go out and I do it now. And this day, and let me make sure I remember correctly. This is a little bit while ago. This time, I wanted to push my left leg as hard as I could when I was seated. And I wanted, because that was the weaker one when I was seated, and I wanted to push the right one as hard as I could when I was standing. Okay, so I wanted to see if I could balance it out. Okay, so we'll come back to the standing interval here. So remember now, standing, I'm pushing, normally my left leg does more here. I'm pushing as hard as I can with my right leg, and I get close.
Yes, so, okay, the second try of this interval, you go with your thoughts, with your brain, with your mental attitude, and try to change the results from the first test. And that's the result of the second test.
Exactly. So now I'm standing up the whole time for 5 minutes, and I'm trying to push as hard as I can with my right leg to balance out what my left leg is doing. And I get pretty close.
And can you measure the performance? Did you ride faster now? Can you say, okay, because of those lines are much closer together, I gained 30 seconds or something?
Well, I was doing a 5-minute interval, so the distance was farther. I actually did go farther. I went about 50 meters farther.
Okay, or 5 minutes. So we can say 1-2% better, something like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, seated. All right, when I went seated, and I remember seated when I was sitting down, my right leg was stronger the day before. So this time I'm pushing really hard with my left. I mean, my left leg is on fire, you know? and again, I get closer, right? I'm able to get closer. I'm able to match it some places, not everywhere.
But how does this, how did it feel like? I mean, you are such an experienced rider, and then you have to push yourself to change your cycling routine, even though you're very, very experienced. So why is this? Is it because your legs are not the same length, or why do you think it is? It just happens because of...
Right. Well, here. All right. Well, good question. So hold on to that question because I'm gonna get to the answer. So then the next day, I go back out and again. Okay, now I'm gonna do another test. The next day, I go out. Now I'm just gonna push with my left leg. Now I'm just like, I'm just gonna push as hard as I can with my left leg the whole time, both standing and seated, and just see what happens. All right, so then here I'm standing, I'm pushing as hard as I can with my left leg, and I'm standing, and now my left leg is really strong. Really pushing hard, really strong. 30 watts almost, 25 watts, big difference. When I sit down and I'm standing, and I'm sitting down and I'm pushing hard as I can with my left leg, I'm really even now. Now I'm getting used to it, and saying, oh, I can match it with my left leg. All right, so then the next day I go out, well, what do? Now I'm going to have to do the right leg. Okay, so now I'm saying, okay, let's go do the right leg. We'll push as hard as we can with the right leg, and I'm going to push this one as hard as I can with my right leg while I'm standing. Well, I just can't even match what my left leg is doing when I'm standing. And this is where I had the discovery. So what I figured out after I came back and I looked at this data, after I did this test, well, guess what? When I stand and climb, I push, I actually put my body off to the left of the bicycle. And I push the bicycle to the right. And then when I bring my right leg back over the pedal stroke, I bring the bicycle back to the center. But I never actually push the bicycle to the left. I always bring it back to the center. So if you looked at me, I mean, I could have figured this out 20 years ago if somebody had videoed me behind, right? They could have just videoed me going up the climb, and they would have seen, oh, he always wobbles his bike to the right, but he never wobbles his bike to the left. So it was a simple change. All I had to do was now say, oh, I've got to move my bike to the left, adjust my weight. Now I push harder with my right leg, and I push hard with my left leg, and so I had to adjust my technique.
So it means if you're pushing more to the left with your arms, you're giving your right leg more grip to push down.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was the real learning there for standing. Now for seated, right? For seated, because remember, seated is different. And here I am now pushing on my right leg as hard as I can. This is my more dominant leg, the one that releases more power on the seated. Here I can do 30 watts more with my right leg. My right leg, the hamstring, the muscle underneath the upper leg, that hamstring and the gluteal is just stronger. It's just more developed. It's just stronger. That leg is stronger. So when I'm seated, I use more energy with my right leg than my left because it's just stronger. So if I want to change that and I want to balance it out when I'm seated, then I'm going to have to do some weightlifting. I'm going to have to train my left hamstring and my left gluteal probably to be stronger so I can balance it out.
Have you ever done FTP tests left or right leg? Just let's see 20 minutes left leg all out and then take half an hour break and then the right leg half.
That sounds really painful.
I know it's painful, but why? I mean, why is nobody doing this actually? I mean, 20 minutes suffering with one leg, okay, you can survive. Then
you can do it.
Take a break and then do the other leg and then you have some figures and then okay, that's the difference, Yeah.
Well, I think that, so you have to remember, that legs are connected. So again, if you did that test, you would only be looking at the left leg in isolation.
That's
true. That's why we need to have the right leg involved, and that's why we've got to look at it from gross power released versus gross power absorbed, and what's happening with the opposing leg? Is it releasing too much, or is it absorbing too much? So one athlete that I coach. He sent me he has a left-right power meter, he has a power tap pedals, and he sent me his data, and his absorption, if you see here on my screen, my absorption is, between 10 to 20 watts. His absorption was 45 watts.
Okay, so he's much more pulling than you?
Well, he's resisting more, right? So his leg on the upstroke that's coming up, it's like, it's trying to hold back. It's like holding it back. And so it's like, wow, this guy is not very efficient. He's trying to hold back too much. So one of the things we did was we started doing some fast pedaling drills to make sure that, because you pedal at 120 RPM, you can't resist. The leg can't resist, so you have to train it to say, okay, don't resist.
That's why, hey, Hunter, that's why I sent my athletes, they say, okay, let's do weight training on the bicycle, and I go and let them ride downhill 2-3% and say, okay, I want to see 135 cadence, and now go for it, okay? Then they say, well, I can't release. It's like, let go. Let it go by itself, And it's the hardest drill that you can possibly do. It's harder than uphill. It's just pain in the ass. Going downhill, high cadence, and just let your legs go,
Right. Yeah. And it's like running, right? Have you ever seen a runner run downhill? These amazing runners, they run downhill. I mean, they're just like flinging their arms, and they're just going, and they let everything go, and they go downhill. And it's amazing to watch. And it's the same thing on the bicycle.
And we lose this ability because we're always pushing uphill. Where if you push uphill, you have your hill coming towards you. It's not so hard to push uphill because you can have a bad stroke. Nobody cares. If you are light and you have strength, you will be fast. It doesn't say nothing about your technique, But on the flat, it says a little bit more. And on the downhill, it really splits the good and the bad,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
Well, so that gives you a little bit of an understanding of the left and right, and I think that, it's a thing that, that one, you have to do some testing, right? So if you have a left and right power meter, you're going to have to go out and test. You have to do, a testing protocol to do this. I've got a testing protocol on my blog. That way it's like, here it is, here's what you have to do. And then you have to understand, well, what is my left leg doing versus my right leg? Which is the one releasing more power, which is the one absorbing more power? And then maybe there's a change that you can make. Like me, it was really simple. In standing, I just needed to move my bike to the left versus the right. And then, if it's more complicated, maybe you need to do some weight training to specifically strengthen one muscle and then over the other group. And then at the same time, you can start to see, well, what happens if I sprint? So a very good sprinter, in the Peloton and the Tour de France, maybe they can improve there. A triathlete, a perfect thing for a triathlete is, to see how this is different when they are in, their pace for their Ironman or half Ironman. Because let's say, for example, I've had coached triathletes where one leg gets muscle cramps and the other one doesn't.
I have one athlete now in my coaching that we are facing for a year now, cramp problems, and he in the training he's always doing well, and the racing he's cramping at the same place. It's behind, it's just behind the buttock, between the big muscle and the buttock. In between there, he's cramping when he's running, and I'm now sending him for weight training, to improve it.
Yeah. So that may be a thing, right? I mean, that could be, prevented maybe if you had a left-right power meter on his bike, and you could see, okay, what's happening with his pedaling, and is the one side that's cramping working more, right?
Have you observed I mean, you have all the data over. Have you observed on long rides, like let's say real tough long rides, that those distribution of the legs will change?
Yes.
And it will go into the wrong direction. It will not recover itself by the length of the ride. It will go more and more apart.
Is it because as you fatigue, right? Okay. So there's a couple other things out of the learning that we have is one, as you fatigue, so 2 points first. So you have to think of 2 points first. One is there's a different distribution between the left and right when you're just riding easy. At endurance pace, and there's a different distribution when you're riding right at your FTP or riding very hard. Okay. So I think that most of us, maybe 80%, we have what I call a lazy leg. We have one leg that just doesn't do as much as the other leg. It just kind of is along for the ride. And then when you go hard, when you go to your FTP, the leg that's been lazy, it's like it's been saving itself almost. Then it comes in and it pushes it. You use it, right? So what my theory is, and again, Roy, this is just a theory, so I don't know.
I like theories. It's always the beginning of new of new training sets is an idea. It's a crazy idea, you know.
Exactly. So my theory is that if you can determine which is the lazy leg when you're riding endurance, right? So let's say, for example, that's your right leg. Let's say, so for me, that's what it is. My right leg is my lazy leg when I ride endurance.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? It's so that leg, the left leg that's spending a lot of time working at endurance, that's the one that cramps. Because when I'm really fatigued, you know, that leg is more fatigued than my right leg, and now that leg is the one that gets the cramps. My right leg now has a little fresher at the end of a 5 or 6 hour or 7 hour ride. It's okay, but it's the left leg that cramps. So, you know, what I've been working on is riding endurance pace, tempo pace, making sure that my lazy leg works a little more to take a little load away from my left leg, which is doing too much work.
Okay, so you're saying that if you cramp on the left side, it means your left leg is probably weaker overall.
Well, it's weaker because at the end of a long ride, it's done more work.
Yeah,
Okay? So it's done more work. It's the one that has done the majority of the work. So I think that's where you have to say, okay, like for your client, is it always the one side? Is it always the right side that cramps?
Yes.
If so, then maybe what needs to happen is the left side is the one that you need to strengthen.
Okay, got it. Aha, okay, now I understand that the leg that cramps, bottom line, has done more work.
Yes.
Okay. So has worked more for the other side.
Right.
And
so
that
then
could be because the legs are not the same length. It could be that this guy should go to a chiropractic to really get the system corrected, or it could be because of an accident, or it just got used to it. I mean, I see it. I see it with my behavior in swimming, for example. If you're swimming and go swimming, you know, half a year later, you have 3 more mistakes that you don't even know. That just come along because you didn't pay attention. So it's a constant watching, observing what you're actually doing.
Exactly.
Okay, got the point.
You got it now. You got it, Roy. You got it.
So I need to buy some pedals now because I'm only riding SRM, and if I want to go into this field, then I need to get some pedals left and right. Huh?
Yeah, I would. What kind of pedals do you have now?
I ride middle foot shoes, Biomec, a German producer that went bankrupt. So my pedal is in the middle of the foot, and it's just SPD, Shimano SPD, very normal. And then I use it with, I have 3 bicycles with SRM crank arms.
Okay. All right. So either the Garmin or the PowerTap pedals would work because the PowerTap pedals are Keo cleats.
Yeah.
So you can probably use those pretty easy. The Garmin ones are their own cleat, so you have to get their cleat.
I'm
but
not
you're used to
happy with Garmin because if Garmin has a bad day, you can just forget the data. You really ride in a training camp for 5 days with the correct watts. And then all of a sudden you have 2 days completely off. But anyway, what about those?
I would recommend the PowerTap one. If you're going to get the pedals, get the PowerTap.
How much are they about?
I believe they're $1,200, $1,200. Yep.
And then one more thing I want to ask you, because it's also a product from the US, is those power crank. I mean, I know a lot about them. I see a lot of stuff about them, you know, because then you're really individually left and right is not connected at all. So do you recommend this in your coachings?
I think this is good for runners.
For runners?
So, I think it's good for running. I don't think it's really great for cycling because, again, cycling, you're connected, so you need to have both sides. But for running, right, you have to lift your leg, right? Every time you run, you lift that leg up before you put it back down again. And that's really what the power cranks are good at, is teaching you to lift the leg. So I've seen improvements with my triathletes who use it for running, not really for cycling, but use it for running. They've got they have a better the stride length. Their legs don't fatigue as much. Their stride length stays long for a longer period of time, because what happens when you fatigue running is you don't lift your legs as much, and so your stride length comes down. And so that's where I've seen the big difference with that.
Okay. Yes, it's a field I would like to try. I have to call that company and just get a set of those cranks and go out and ride. But it must be a crazy feeling to ride around with those cranks.
Yeah, the legs will burn. That's cool. That's good. That's good. That's good. Well, good. Well, I hope this helps.
This helps, Hunter. Very good. I will post it on my YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
All right.
I will have some more ideas. I will pop back with you and ask you for your time. And in the meantime, I'm working on this. If you can do a workshop next year.
All right.
Because
awesome.
that would be good.
I'd love to do it. I'd love to come and hang with you and learn more. We have more discussions, and then at the same time, let's teach some people. So that would be a lot of fun.
Have you been riding the Alps?
No, I haven't. I'd love to come.
Have you been riding in Colorado?
Colorado, yes. Yep.
It's like Colorado, but about 1,000 meters lower, So
that sounds good to me.
So you have more air.
Sounds good to me. That sounds good to me. That'd be good.
Okay, Hunter. Thank you very much.
All right.
And
my pleasure, Roy.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Talk to you later, huh?
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.